Hey, Cleared Job Seekers. We're working hard this summer to record episodes with more great guests from the Cleared community. To make sure we continue to bring you the best content possible, we'll be releasing new episodes every other week this summer. By the start of September, we'll be back to our usual weekly schedule. Enjoy the show!
It's one of the best ways to get that full scope. There's only a handful of ways that you can do that. One is going directly to a government agency. Another one is going through a contractor like ours to get that full scope upgraded. And I always tell people this: once you have your full scope, hang on to it, because it is a pain to try to get that reinstated. So once you get it, just hold on to it.
Welcome to Security Cleared Jobs, Who's Hiring and How, the podcast for cleared professionals looking for new opportunities and career advice. We go behind the scenes with recruiters and hiring managers from leading cleared employers to uncover the information you need to make a smart career move. Get ready for insights from this week's guest and your hosts, Kathleen Smith and Rachel Bozeman.
It's Kathleen, and thank you for joining me for another episode of Security Cleared Jobs, Who's Hiring and How. Before we get to it, Rachel has just a little request for you. Rachel?
You know I got to bring something to the table. If it's not the witty personality, it's going to be a favor. So friends, as you're out there and you're listening and following our show, what would make it even better is if you went out there and left approximately 1 gazillion stars. And if that option is not available for you, we will definitely be appreciative of that 5-star review. And now back to our regularly scheduled program.
Today we have Cynthia Liscoe, Chief Operation Officer for Primetime Consulting. Thank you for joining us today, Cynthia.
Thank you, Kathleen. It's great to be here.
Yes, we are super excited that you're here today, Miss Cynthia. And we like to start back. We kind of consider all of our guests to be superheroes, and every superhero has an origin story. So we would love to hear about your origin story or your background and what brought you to Primetime Consulting.
My path kind of chose itself for me. I went to school in DC and I got recruited into the NSA straight out of college. And I thought that was just the coolest thing. So I was there for almost a decade. I focused on some counterterrorism, counter intel during the height of the whole CT wave. So that was really fun. And then as that slowly trickled out, I decided that I wanted to look at the flip side of that. How are we managing this? What's going on? Is it really just all blue badgers doing this work? Who are these contractors that are running around? And so I went over to the other side and started my life in contracting. And I loved it. I stayed with a large company for a number of years, really got focused in proposals, really got focused in how the contracts are run. And then kind of came over to Primetime Consulting as a small business. And these guys are great because they are coming from the mindset of a large business, but they're running it as if it's a small business. So they have that wealth of knowledge, but they run it as if it's like a mom and pop shop. They know every single person, they know their families. It's great. So that really drew me to them. And the rest is, as they say, the rest is history.
I love origin stories like that because a lot of people, when they think about the cleared community or they think about supporting the IC, they think about big companies and big complexes. And it's actually the flip side, in my opinion. We've talked to so many companies on this podcast about how it's a family, how everyone cares for each other. So thank you for sharing your origin story. Definitely a superhero in my mind. So Primetime is a fairly new company when you think about it, founded in 2019 with about 70 employees. Just tell us about the types of work the company does in the cleared community.
So we are a fairly small company. We're about 70 employees, give or take. We have a few starting this week, which is great. And we are focused mostly in analytical work. So there's a lot of research and development that happens. There's a lot of analytic work that happens. There's a ton of different pieces that go into it. And we are focused in that analytic part. So that's where we are now. But we are very forward thinking. And we're looking to kind of expand our footprint and move into some of those, we call them sister opportunities. So things that are analytic adjacent. We have our eyes kind of focused on the future as well as what we're doing currently.
Here's what we're doing today. Tomorrow, we might be doing this. So very, very cool. So you kind of mentioned really focused in the analytics space. with maybe some adjacencies coming in the future there. So, what are those security cleared positions that you're currently hiring for, or the skill sets that you're looking for?
I will tell you kind of two different things here because there is what we've been looking for traditionally, and then there is what we've kind of heard is rumored and coming about, which is also really exciting, I think, for a bunch of people. And here's why. Traditionally, we've been looking for TDNA positions, those target data network analyst positions, traditional network analysts, DNEAs, a lot of different people who have exploitation skills like reverse engineering, malware, that type of stuff. So those are always going to be, I think, like your bread and butter. Those are going to be your staple positions that people always want. But this is the cool part. This is where you kind of have to take a little bit of, I heard this rumor and I've kind of seen this changing and merge it all together and use your analytical brain kind of outside of our actual job space. But we've kind of heard and seen that these are kind of becoming full focus positions. So we're looking to hire people that have, I'll use TDNA as an example, TDNA experience, but maybe they have a flair of that DNEA skill, or maybe they have a little bit of malware or a little bit of reverse engineering. So I think those people are really unique for a couple different reasons. Like one, we can put them in a variety of places because their skill set is so vast, but they still have that niche area of TDNA. And it also helps us look forward, like we talked about a little bit earlier, about what we're thinking about going forward. And those people also have a really cool background. A lot of those folks have had a diverse set of positions, diverse offices that they've worked in to be able to get those skills. So that is also kind of like the third benefit is we can use that within our company. Like, maybe they can teach those skills to other analysts or they can help out in a variety of different projects. So I always use TDNA as my example, but we are hiring so many different positions and I'm really excited. Now's a really good time to get into it as well.
Well, if you're excited, I am equally excited. And it sounds like you're hiring a lot of people with equally cool origin stories. So, something that these amazing superheroes may want to know are where are these positions located? Are they all in Fort Meade?
Sure. The majority of our positions are in Fort Meade, but we do kind of spread things out a little bit. We do have the enterprise locations in the US. So we have Hawaii, Texas, Alaska, and Georgia. Georgia is one of my favorite places. And we do have people actually on contract working there now. So we have a variety of open positions there and a variety of people who are working there. So if people decide they do want to go to those positions, they already have like a buddy in place waiting for them, waiting to show them the ropes. And, we do have those Fort Meade positions. That is kind of where we are focused. That is where the headquarters is, the agency is. So obviously you're going to have a ton there. So if you don't want to travel, you're really settled, that's your perfect option there as well.
So, one of the great things that I love that we do here on the podcast is we give you an opportunity to talk to somebody else on the team to sort of get comfortable. And I understand you may have said, hate it or love it, we don't do remote work or we don't have remote work. But you think that's a positive for your company culture. Please explain why you think that's positive for the company culture.
Oh, yeah. This is kind of a cool thing. And I think you're right. I think I actually did say, like, hate it or love it, we don't have remote work. I know a lot of people after COVID really fell into that groove of working from home, and it's been hard to kind of pull them back. But since we do have contracts that are just all classified work, it really makes it necessary to be in the skiff space. So that is really cool because you're not isolated. You're not working in a bubble. You have all your other analysts, coworkers, friends, even. That's a huge wealth of resources right there. So whether you're relying on another contractor, a government person, a military person, even, you have a ton of resources that are within walking distance or, dare I say, swivel around in your chair distance. You can always put your head down and just focus and just work. But I think that this is just a plus. And especially with the way things are going now, there's just such a rapid increase in technology and learning things. And that train's not going to slow down. So the more we can learn and utilize each other, the better. So I think that being in person for this particular work is just great.
Security Cleared listeners, did you know that you can text us? If you're on mobile, go to this episode's description and hit send us a text message. We're always happy to hear from you, so give us some feedback or let us know what else you want to learn about. Now back to the show.
I love the way you spelled that out because those are some of the things you hear about remote work. It's, my coworkers, if they're anything like mine, they smell bad and they have 4 legs. So it's nice to be around other folks that can respond back to you with anything besides another treat, Mom. But something else we want to kind of dive into. You live in the world of polygraph professionals, whether you love it or you hate it. You're living in the world, my friend. So what do you do, or what kind of sets you apart in that competitive landscape for the cleared talent?
Yeah, we do live in that world of polygraphs. The one thing that I think is really interesting is that we are on a variety of contracts where some of them are CI cleared only, other ones are full scope only. And the cool thing is that because we are on so many different contracts, there's a lot of different opportunities on how the individual is going to start. So we have one contract where you need to wait until you are full scope approved or already a full scope candidate. Another contract that we're on, you don't necessarily have to wait. So you could have just that CI poly and start right away. Obviously with intention, if you want to bump up to the full scope, that's great. We kind of have that like introductory period on one of them, which I think is good for a lot of people. As you know, that process can sometimes take forever to get your full scope polygraph scheduled, cleared, or just get that initial okay. So while you're waiting to do that, that time can be daunting. It's very stressful. But being able to get on another contract where you're not necessarily waiting for that kind of puts you at ease. You're like, at least I have this right here. I'm working on this. I'm making great headway. We'll worry about the rest in a little bit.
It's really great because you just sort of read my mind, because that's where I was going with our next question. So you are able to upgrade someone from a CI poly to a full scope poly. Can you sort of talk about that as much as you can, that process?
In terms of upgrading them from that CI to the full scope poly, as you know, it's contract dependent. So what we're able to do is get that person in for an interview with the prime. They find out that our candidate is amazing. Absolutely, we want them on the contract. And then the rest really is the work of our fabulous security department. And what they'll do is prepare their package. They'll submit it over to, I think in this case, it's the Maryland Procurement Office over to MPO. They'll go through all the normal steps that they have to do, a whole slew of paperwork. I'm sure it's been a minute since I've had to do mine, to be honest, but a whole slew of paperwork. And what will happen is they will get the approval for the full scope. So it doesn't mean that they have their full scope. It doesn't mean that they've even been scheduled to sit for the full scope, but it's just that approval of, okay, we didn't find anything crazy. We didn't find anything nefarious. We're sure you're going to pass your full scope with flying colors. So let's go ahead and get you on the contract. Let's get you working. And while we are trudging through our backlog of people that we have to poly, we'll slot you in there as well. So I think that is important because it's one of the best ways to get that full scope. There's only a handful of ways that you can do that. One is going directly to a government agency. Another one is going through a contractor like ours to get that full scope upgraded. And I always tell people this: once you have your full scope, hang on to it, because it is a pain to try to get that reinstated. So once you get it, just hold on to it.
You heard it here. Sticky fingers, keep it around it, don't let it go. So something that we also heard was pretty cool that y'all have established over there is the Interview Ambassador Program to help those prospective employees who, let's be honest, nobody likes to interview. It can be a little challenging, but you have the Interview Ambassador Program. So tell us a little bit about what created this and really how does this work within your organization?
So we do have a lot of transitioning service members, and they've done a ton of great work for us, for our country. And as a quick side note, thank you all for your service very much from the bottom of my heart. Now back to the question. The ambassador program is really cool. We have, and I'll use the military member as an example. So we have military coming out, and while the military does a great job with their TAP programs, the transition programs, there's only so much information they can squeeze into these tiny little programs. And we have people coming out with the craziest questions, and they're not always about the contract or about the position. I had someone who called me up one day and they're like, you know what? This is probably not the question for you. And it's dumb. I'm so sorry. I'm going to ask anyway. And I'm like, no, there are no dumb questions. Just tell me, what is it? Lay it on me. And he's like, I don't understand how regular healthcare works. I've only ever been in the military. So I'm like, that's fine. Let me explain it to you. We even have an entire healthcare POC, like a benefits advisor for our entire program. So this particular person, we put them in touch with our benefits advisor. We put them in touch with HR. On top of that, they had some other questions too, like, this is my first position out of the military. How am I going to like things? Is this a good choice for me? And I told them, listen, I've never been in the military, but I'll tell you what I can do is hook you up with someone who's in our team who has been in the military. And they just transitioned last year. So all this is super fresh for them. So that kind of kicked off our ambassador program. And it went really well. So our director of talent acquisition, Amber Hotchkiss, has really taken this concept and put it into this massive program. So she'll have the initial call with them. She'll run down everything. And then she'll assign them to a teammate that's currently on the contract that has a similar backstory, has that similar origin story. And she'll be like, okay, guys, here you go. Here's your introduction. And now I'm going to leave. So she puts them together. We excuse ourselves. She excuses herself. And the two of them can talk openly and honestly. And it's great because one, they can ask those questions that they might not feel as comfortable asking us or asking HR or asking the benefits advisor. And two, there's someone who's been in their exact same situation. So even if they don't know what questions to ask, that ambassador can sometimes say, hey, you know what? I've noticed this, this, and this. You might want to do X, Y, and Z. And then at the end of the day, too, we really want people to be happy. So if someone doesn't come with us or sign with us for whatever reason, that's okay. We want that person to make the right choice for them for this particular time. And everyone's life situation changes. We've had people who have not signed with us for a particular reason, but then have come back and had interest and signed with us. There's a variety of reasons why a situation might not be the right fit for a particular person. We want people to have a nice experience during the interview process. You don't have to wait till afterwards. We want you to be comfortable during the whole thing.
That sounds really amazing. I really like that. So I just want to get back to one of your original answers about the diverse skill set. What we've been noticing is, as you mentioned, people are sort of expanding the skill sets that they're learning. Like I work a lot with folks in the hacker world who have a job, but then they have stuff that they do on their hobbies and have a lot of fun. And it's really interesting how some of those hobbies, some of those other skill sets start to integrate into someone's career. So, can you sort of talk a little bit more what you've seen, what you've observed as far as really diverse skill sets coming to play at Primetime Consulting?
So I think this is where we kind of go back to the trifecta of what makes up primetime consulting. We have a lot of people that have come directly from the contracting world. That's all they've ever done. People who have come from the military world and people who have come from the government. And I think all those three different skills and backgrounds blended together is what really creates our unique situation. We recently had a bunch of our coworkers, a bunch of our analysts participate in a Capture the Flag event. And it was really cool because one of the guys from our company kind of headed up this first group. And a couple of the other guys who were in his team had no experience at all. They're like, this is something I kind of wanted to try, never done it. And they actually took home the first place medal, which was really awesome. So, yay to them. But I think that's really what it is. They're doing these other things in their spare time. They're checking to make sure their skills are on point. They're really good. And the guy who was leading this team, Brian King, not only did he take his team to victory leading this team, but he also mentored the other guys that were sitting there with him. And it was just such a cool thing for them to be able to participate in, especially with some of them not having had this experience. And now they're asking when the next one is. They're like, hey, when is the next one? This is cool. This was a lot of fun.
Yes, look for Capture the Flags, audience. Definitely go to the B-Sides, my favorite organization, Security B-Sides. There are over 500 of them globally. But yeah, great opportunity to learn how to be part of a team, learn some of the cutting edge technology. Besides, Las Vegas actually has a pros versus Joes competition, which is really fabulous. So there are plenty of opportunities out there to integrate your diverse skill set and apply them to your career. Take it away, Rachel.
I think you forgot to say and have fun.
Oh, yeah, and have fun. You're definitely going to have fun with the Capture the Flag.
Love it. And speaking of fun, I love a good, crazy interview story. You know, sometimes candidates just do the darndest things. And before I ask this question, I will say, listeners, please, if you're ever in a spot where you shouldn't be taking an interview, it's okay to ask for a reschedule. But the example that I think we're going to talk about here, Cynthia, is maybe one of those friends that didn't take that advice and decided maybe they would just do a virtual interview from the middle of the produce aisle. What?
Oh, yeah, this is true. I mean, you can't make this stuff up. This was a virtual interview. And again, in the post-COVID world, these things are normal. Like virtual interviews are normal. And I will have to say that this was many years ago and it wasn't with prime time. And this particular candidate, they absolutely did that. They started taking their interview in the middle of a grocery store. So I got on the call. I started everything as I normally do. And thankfully, they were on mute up until then. So everything was crystal clear. It was great. And then when I requested some answers, they took themselves off mute. And I thought they were maybe just in a really loud household. I have 2 dogs myself. They are very vocal. And so when I'm working from home, you can hear them. But it was more than just that. It was so many different voices. And all of a sudden, I heard an announcement come on over the loudspeaker, and they were announcing either a sale or a cleanup in aisle 5 or something along those lines. And I realized this guy is taking his call, his actual interview call from the grocery store. It was so hard to hear him and it was so loud. Everything was drowned out. And needless to say, the call kind of ended pretty quickly. And I really wish he would have rescheduled. So we're always open to reschedules. Life happens, things happen. But exactly as you said, Rachel, reschedule. People are totally fine doing that.
I actually think that's sort of the first recruiter panel that Rachel and I did 6, 7 years ago. It was about really bizarre interviews. And Rachel has some great stories, but we won't get into those right now. So, Cynthia, you've shared some really great stories. We've really loved all the content that you shared. How can our listeners get in touch with you?
I would love to hear from every single one of the listeners. So please email us. You can go to our website, which is primetime-consulting.com. All of our open positions are listed there. There's a button that you can click to see the exact locations. It takes you to our recruiting page. So that'll give you an idea of what we're looking for and what you're looking for. And then to get in touch with us directly, you can reach out to our wonderful hiring team. We have such a great hiring team right now. Our director of talent acquisitions is Amber Hotchkiss. She leads up the entire team. She runs it like a pro. And you can reach her team at hiring@primetime-consulting.com.
Cynthia, thank you so much for joining us today. It was really great hearing all about Primetime Consulting.
Oh, it was such a pleasure to be on the show. Thank you guys so much. You guys are great to chat with. I loved it.
Thanks so much.
Thank you. It was really great talking with Cynthia and learning all about Primetime Consulting. I really liked that she shared some tips about how they upgrade their CI polys to their full scope polys. That, there are many ways that people want to make the most of their career. So having an employer that does that upgrading is really very spectacular. Rachel, what did you like?
There were so many things, as always, that I love learning through these conversations. But I think we'd be remiss if we didn't call out the elephant in the room that we may have had a superhero on the call today. I don't know if you caught it. There was some mind reading that happened there. There was some seen into the future, some future job listings, and a pretty stinking cool origin story. I just think we would be remiss if we didn't call all of that incredibleness out there. But something I really did love learning about Primetime Consulting was just the fact that big knowledge base that they have with that small company feel that they're able to provide. And I just think that is such an incredible place to grow a career, and just loved learning more from Cynthia about primetime consulting. And you know what else we love, friends? We love you. So thank you, my friends, for coming and listening with us today. We are happy to be here with you, and we really do appreciate you and your follows and the gazillion stars. Adios. Bye-bye.
Talk to you later.